History rarely records the true genesis of an empire. The grand dynasties that dominate our imagination often seem to spring into existence fully formed, their power absolute, their reign inevitable. But beneath every golden age lies a forgotten chapter, a story of obscurity, of humble beginnings in the shadows of giants. So it was for one of the most sophisticated lines of predators the world has ever known. Now, let us open the chronicle and chart the rise and fall of this great dinosaur dynasty. Our story begins not in the clamor of the Cretaceous, but in the deeper time of the Middle and Late Jurassic, approximately 165 million years ago. This was a world ruled by titans. Colossal sauropods shook the earth, and monstrous carnosaurs like Allosaurus were the undisputed masters of the hunt. In this unforgiving landscape, survival for a small creature demanded ingenuity, not strength. From an unassuming branch of the theropod family tree, a new kind of predator was emerging, the proto-Dromaeosaurids. These were not the fearsome killers of later millennia. They were small, nimble, and lived a life of quiet opportunism in the forest undergrowth. Here, the fossil record reveals the crucial adaptations that would become their dynastic signature. While their larger cousins relied on brute force and bone-crushing jaws, these nascent hunters were honing a different set of tools. Their skeletons were lightweight, their bodies likely cloaked in a coat of primitive feathers, not for flight but for insulation and display. But it was in two specific anatomical innovations that their destiny was forged. Their brains were growing proportionally larger, a sign of developing intelligence and complex predatory behaviors. And on their feet, the second toe was evolving into something truly remarkable, a hyperextensible digit tipped with a curved, sharp claw. It was not yet the famous killing claw of its descendants, but it was the blueprint, a specialized weapon that would one day elevate their entire lineage from obscurity to dominance. The dawn of the Cretaceous period, some 145 million years ago, heralded a new era for the planet and for our nascent dynasty. The world was warming, sea levels were rising, and the old supercontinents were finally breaking apart, creating new environments and new evolutionary opportunities. For the descendants of those small Jurassic hunters, this was the moment their lineage had been preparing for. They exploded from the shadows, embarking on a campaign of global conquest that would define their golden age. This was the time of the Dromaeosaurid ascendancy. Across the newly formed landmasses of Laurasian and Gondwana, the family diversified with breathtaking speed, adapting their ancestral blueprint to conquer a vast array of ecological niches. In the floodplains of early Cretaceous North America, they scaled up their design to terrifying proportions. Here, we uncover the fossils of Utah Raptor, a 7-meter-long behemoth and the largest dromaeosaur known to science. It was a grizzly bear-sized predator that traded nimbleness for overwhelming power, wielding a sickle claw nearly 9 inches long. Utah Raptor was proof that the dynasty's fundamental body plan could be adapted for apex predation. Yet, at the very same time, in the lush fossil forests of what is now China, the family was experimenting in a completely different direction. There, we find Microraptor, a crow-sized animal that took the dynasty's signature feathers to their logical conclusion. With long asymmetrical flight feathers on both its arms and legs, it was a 4-winged glider, a feathered assassin of the treetops. The existence of creatures as disparate as the giant Utah raptor and the diminutive microraptor showcases the incredible evolutionary plasticity of this dynasty at its zenith. They were not a monolithic line of killers. They were a branching, thriving family of specialists. It was during this era that the Dromaeosaurid hunting strategy was perfected, an art of cooperative violence exemplified by perhaps the most famous member of the dinosaur, Deinonychus. Fossils of this wolf-sized predator, found alongside the much larger herbivore Tyrannosaurus, offer a tantalizing glimpse into their behavior. The evidence strongly suggests they were pack hunters, intelligent, coordinated, and capable of overwhelming prey many times their own size. The enlarged brain, the forward-facing eyes for binocular vision, and the stiffened, rudder-like tail for balance during high-speed chases all point to a predator of unparalleled sophistication. The sickle claw, now a fearsome, fully developed weapon, was likely used not as a slashing saber, but as a grappling hook, a killing anchor to pin struggling prey while the pack moved in. This was the Dromaeosaurid way of war, perfected and ruthlessly effective. But no golden age lasts forever. A dynasty's strength is measured not only by the heights of its power, but by its resilience in the face of an existential challenge. For 100 million years, the Dromaeosaurs had thrived, but as the geological clock ticked onward into the Late Cretaceous, a new and terrible lineage of giants rose to contest their reign. The age of the feathered assassins was about to be eclipsed by the era of the tyrant kings. This new threat was the Tyrannosauridae. Evolving from smaller ancestors, this rival dynasty had embraced a different evolutionary philosophy, one of overwhelming scale and bone-shattering power. While the Dromaeosaurs were paragons of sophisticated cooperative predation, the Tyrannosaurs were engines of destruction. Their rise had a catastrophic effect on the Dromaeosaurid empire. The ecological niches for medium and large-bodied predators, once occupied by giants like Utah raptor and Achillobotter, were systematically usurped. There was simply no competing with a creature like Gorgosaurus or Daspletosaurus, whose sheer size and devastating bite force redefined apex predation. The fossil record from this period is telling. We see a marked decrease in the diversity and body size of the larger Dromaeosaurs, coinciding directly with the geographical spread of Tyrannosaurids across the northern hemisphere. The Dromaeosaurid dynasty was being squeezed, pushed out of the roles they once dominated. They faced a stark choice: adapt or perish. And so, they adapted. They surrendered the title of apex predator and refined their craft in the shadows of the new giants. The final generations of Dromaeosaurus, including the famous Velociraptor and Sour Ornitholestes, were smaller, more gracile, and even more neurologically advanced than their ancestors. They became specialists in hunting smaller, agile prey that the colossal tyrants would have ignored. Their intelligence, speed, and cooperative hunting strategies were now tools for survival in a world where they were no longer the masters. They were a dynasty in retreat, still deadly, still sophisticated, but their kingdom had shrunk to the undergrowth. For millions of years, in the twilight of the Mesozoic, this new equilibrium held. The Dromaeosaurid dynasty, though humbled, endured. The last members of their line, creatures like Raptor in North America, were the ultimate refinement of their ancestral blueprint. Hyper-intelligent, lethal predators perfectly adapted to a world ruled by giants. They were survivors, a testament to their family's resilience. But they were facing a trial far greater than any rival dynasty, a challenge not of flesh and bone, but of cosmic scale. 66 million years ago, the sky fell. The Chicxulub impactor struck the Earth with unimaginable force, triggering a global cataclysm that brought the Cretaceous period and the entire age of dinosaurs to a close. In the ensuing years of darkness and starvation, no amount of speed, intelligence, or cooperation could save them. The intricate ecosystems they depended upon collapsed, and the Dromaeosaur dynasty, alongside their Tyrannosaur nemesis, faded into extinction. Their great 100-million-year story had reached its final abrupt chapter. Yet, their legacy was not entirely erased. In the hollow bones, the fused clavicles, and the signature feathers of their avialan cousins who survived the Great Dying, their bloodline endured, transformed but unbroken. And so the chronicle of the Dromaeosaurs closes, a sweeping epic of shadow-dwelling ancestors and feathered conquerors, of a golden age eclipsed and a final catastrophic end. Their story serves as a profound reminder that all empires, no matter how perfectly adapted or brilliantly designed, are ultimately subject to the vast, indifferent cycles of planetary time, leaving behind only echoes in stone and a genetic whisper carried forward into a new world.